Hi, I'm Kathy from Eclectic Images and welcome to another video in our series on alcohol inks. So today I'm going to be using again the Pinata alcohol inks, and I'm going to be using some quite strong colours, and then after we've pounced our piece and got it to where we want it, I'm then going to be doing some stenciling over the top with the metallics, which should create a really good effect. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just working on the gloss card today. This is our gloss card that we sell. We sell it as A4 sheets in a pack of 10, and then you just trim it back to whatever size you want to work on. I'll be using my Alcohol Ink Applicator Tool with a bit of felt on it, and I often buy felt to cut to shape, like when I'm doing strips of felt, I'll buy felt to cut to those size, but when it comes to the circles for these, I just buy them in a pack. They're made by Ranger. Let me just grab my pack so I can show you. So we stock these as well. I don't want to be cutting out little circles, so I just buy them already pre-cut. By all means, you can buy felt and cut it to size, but I find the convenience of that is just wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to be working with some quite strong colours. So Sapphire Blue, Passion Purple, and probably a bit of Sangria. I'm going to see how the other two colours go first, and then decide which I'm going to add in. And of course my Sapphire Blue doesn't want to open for me. Oh, Matthew, you said before, make sure you don't use any inks that you haven't opened. Cameraman to the rescue. Oh, you're wonderful. This is why I usually clean the tips of the bottles and the lids before I put them away, because otherwise they get stuck. Okay, are we still recording? Okay, let's just keep going. Okay, I'm going to pop a little bit of the Claro extender on first. Just pop a few drops of that on. And we're going to put our Sapphire Blue onto our applicator. So rather than putting several colours on at once, which I often do, this time I'm going to build up one colour at a time. So let's just build up with a bit of our Sapphire Blue first. I was getting a little bit of the pattern was a bit too regular there, so I'm just turning the applicator as I pounce it now so that I get different parts of the pattern coming out. Let's add some Passion Purple to that. Now this is very strong, so I'm only using a couple of drops. Again, we'll add the Claro extender. It's a bit too regular and circular for me, although it is moving very nicely. No, let's move on to Sangria. So this time I'm going to put it on the applicator in more of a line. Add lots more of our Claro. And let's see what we get now. Work it around the edge a bit. You probably don't have to be as noisy and enthusiastic as I am, but I tend to get a bit carried away with it. Now we're starting to get some interesting patterns happening. I'm just going to pop a little bit more Claro or alcohol. No, let's just go a bit more Claro on all the colours that are still on there, and let's just let that, I don't know if Matthew can, oh, he's lovely and close up. Thank you very much, Matthew. So you can see the effect of that in just making those inks move and blend together. Now I think I want more colour, a little bit more of the blue. Blending very nicely there, but let's just add a bit more blue over some of these areas. I do want the background quite dark so that when we use the metallic over the top it shows up really well. Now I'm liking that better. I've got more wiggly lines rather than circles. Do I touch? Do I leave it? One more touch in there. Matthew just laughed at me. Right. letting it just move and do its thing, see whether I'm happy. I never know when to stop when I'm working with alcohol inks because you can just keep on creating more and more patterns. A bit more sangria just around near those edges. Okay, back away now. All right, popping lids on things because we won't need those colours again in this project. I will come back in. I'm only just resting the lids on just in case I knock things over. I'll come back in and give those nozzles a clean before I put those away at the end of my session. Now I'm just going to pop that to one side and clean my craft mat. Now of course we could grab another little bit of gloss card or a scrap of gloss card. And I'm just going to tear a little bit here. And as we're cleaning up, let's put that way out of the way of any alcohol sprays. As we're cleaning up, we could actually just be picking up some more colour and creating another background strip so that we're not wasting colour. Just like when you're smooshing in some of your normal inks. So I'm just having a look at it each time after I do a smoosh, see whether I've got good coverage, see if I'm happy with it. And then I would probably look at this panel, because it's the same sort of colours that I've used on there, see if I can just pick up a bit more blue on it. That's looking pretty good, isn't it? So we could actually, because we've got similar colours, we could die cut a sentiment or die cut a panel from this and then layer a sentiment over the top and add that into our finished card. Just going to play a little bit more. I'll just hold up so you can sort of see what's being created as we smoosh. Just want a little, that's better, just wanting it a little bit deeper. But of course, that's a bit of an odd thing because we're using alcohol that's diluting it and making it lighter, but I'm trying to build it up deeper. But just by layering a couple of layers on, see we've got a little bit more colour happening there. Okay, let's pop that one to one side, grab a bit of paper towel and give this a wipe. Rightio. Now the stencil I'm going to be using today is one out of the BeeArty range. So this is, I didn't give Matthew any warning that we're going to do close-ups, but he's onto it. Now this one is just a swirl one. I'm not sure of its technical name, but you can see it's a lovely swirl. So this is what we're going to use over the top of our panel that we've created. But first I'm just going to get my heat gun and just make sure this is nice and dry. So you can do this with a heat gun or a dryer. Of course, if you're working on a plastic surface or Yupo, just be careful not to overheat it. And we're looking some of those darker areas, just check that they're dry. Let's get just a little bit more. I do love the finish that you get with the gloss card, that it's got that a real shine to it that's from the glossiness of the card as well as from the alcohol inks. However, the Yupo paper, well, it's a plastic, but the Yupo is very good to work with as well because the inks float on it so easily that it's very easy to blend and get effects with it. It really is a personal preference. A lot of people work on both. My preference just happens to be for the gloss card, but a lot of people love working with the Yupo. Now I'm just going to take this down so that the stencil doesn't move on me as I'm doing my pouncy bits. And we're going to use the same tool for putting on our gold, but I've actually found I prefer to do it with the normal ink applicator rather than the felt. So I'm just going to take my piece of felt off, that's a very dead one now, and pop on a bit of a foam one. And you can see this has already had some alcohol ink on it in the brass. So I'll grab my brass, give it a good shake. Now, it's best not to overdo it because it's very fluid. It can run in under the stencil. But you know, we're working with alcohol inks, they're always a little bit random. So if you do get a bit of bleeding under your stencil, don't beat yourself up because that sort of thing is quite likely to happen. But I'm going to want to build up a couple of layers of it. So I'm going to start off at one end, work my way up, and then work my way along again. You may like just the first coat, which is quite soft, and it's letting a lot of the blue colour show through from underneath. Just keep adding just a little bit every now and again. And I'm just adding it to just to one point on the pad so that I'm not wasting it on a whole lot because it's going to get all over the stencil as well. So if I put it everywhere, I'm just going to be spreading a whole lot of brass around here that's wasted. I'm better to just use a few drops and be able to place it more over where I'm wanting it to go. Now the only problem with taping it down is I'm not going to be able to lift it up halfway to see how it's going. I can see when I start to run a bit low. So I'm trying to hold that down a little bit more with a finger, just so I can get through the stencil without it running too much underneath. I'm not going to mind if I get a little bit of run, but I still want to see the shape of the stencil, so I don't want too much running. Who are we kidding? I don't like running. The physical running. Love it when inks run. It's usually watercolours and it's usually what I want them to be doing. Not so happy if it's my calligraphy inks running, because that's usually when I don't want them to. Fussy, aren't we? So you just don't expect that you're building up much opacity with your first go. I'm actually going to try and just lift a corner up to show, see if Matthew can get in nice and close there, just to show what it's looking like. Let me take the tape off this bit. So you can see what we're getting under there. We get nice and close there. So you can see it's just a very soft one at the moment. So we're going to put another coat on and see if we can build that up a little bit more. But that would be, it is lovely and soft. That would be lovely just as it is, but I want to go for a little bit more. So I'll start back down at the bottom and do another application. The other thing I can do, where I've had a few drips that have collected around the nozzle there, I can actually wipe those onto my felt and use those bits as well. Again, just so I'm not wasting colour. Sometimes, as you notice, I'm sort of twisting it as I'm applying it. It's just to make sure that I don't get an edge, that I'm actually massaging it into the whole design area that I want covered. It is a bit sticky. One of the good reasons for wearing gloves. Mind you, I quite often work without the gloves. It's just if you know you're going to be doing several pieces, because of how much the alcohol can be drying on your skin, it can be good to wear the gloves sometimes just to protect them. Now, even when we've built, I guess we could keep adding layers until we're quite opaque, but I feel that what the effect we're going to get here with a couple of layers is that we'll be having some of the alcohol ink colour show through, but we'll still get a really good metallic effect. And that is going to look brilliant. You can see why I wanted the underneath layer to be quite dark, because I want this brass to really stand out from it. Okay, so that's given us pretty good coverage. Just want a little bit more there. You can see you don't need to use your extender or anything when you're doing this, because we don't want to create a lot of flowage. We're actually wanting this colour to build up, and we're wanting it to be a little bit dry so we've got more control over where it goes. If I'd use extender or alcohol or anything with it, it would be running under the stencil and we wouldn't get much of our pattern showing. So let's have a little bit of a look. Just going to pull my tape off. It's like something on telly, isn't it? We're going to have a reveal. Let's lift our stencil off. How about that? Oh my goodness! Isn't that gorgeous? So that depth of colour just brings that metallic out so beautifully. Oh, this is a winner for me, this one. Now, I haven't actually done this one a lot. I've tended to use the gold more and the brass and blown it around. I've only done the stenciling a few times, but this, I love it. So now I'm looking at this piece here and thinking that I might just, while I've got a bit of brass on there, let's just add a bit of Claro to it. Just add some of that over there as well. Now this isn't what you would normally use as an alcohol applicator tool, because it's the foam pad, not the felt. But we're just getting a little bit of a sheen there from it. It's nothing major, it's just a bit of shine. So I think what we're going to do, no, I'm not going to change it. I'm going to leave it like that and leave this panel dark. We'll mount that up, and I'm going to stamp something on here and mount it and cut it out and mount our little greeting on the card there. We might even use a strip of it in behind it or something. Just so it's in the same colours, but it's quite different because it's so much softer. But it just shows what you can do with not wasting the colour that you've got on your mat. You know, make another background. Like when we're doing inking and watercolouring and we end up with extra colour and the shimmer dust and things like that, and you end up with extra colour on your mat, use it. Make 2 or alcoholinks.com, and I'll put a list, and in the description panel we'll put a list of the colours and stuff that I've used. So thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you next time for another adventure with alcohol inks. Okay, see ya.